Hello, everyone. It's December 10th. The fall semester 2020, Widener College has wound down to an end, and we're going to be looking ahead to the spring, which is going to be very successful in the new year. But we want to take a little time before we do that at this town hall, since this is the last one for the fall, to look back a little bit and celebrate the success of the Widener community. There's a lot to be proud of, a lot to be proud of. Some things that we did here that are remarkable and noteworthy. You know, we're one of the rare colleges that plan to reopen for in-person as well as online education that was able to sustain the entire semester of in-person learning and performance and practice. A remarkable record. We did so many things, I can't begin to list all of them, and we all did it together. Our classrooms were outfitted for remote instruction, and our faculty mastered new technologies, learned how to make use of these new tools with our students who were remote or in person. Our library was open, which is actually really remarkable in New York. It was one of the few libraries open to its patrons. It was open here on Grimes Hill at Widener College. Campus dining was open with a new mobile app that proved to be very popular, as well as the tents outside that were heated. It had a certain romantic ambiance and added some charm to the campus. And maybe we'll keep that. We'll certainly keep the app, and maybe we'll bring some tents back sometime. Live theater and dance performances happened. What a remarkable record. Again, that wasn't occurring in much of the city of New York, but it was occurring right here at Widener College. Wonderful performances, thanks to our faculty, staff, and students. Extraordinary talent being demonstrated. An event, just that very last weekend before Thanksgiving, we had a wonderful performance of our students. The marching band performed. They said it couldn't be done. It was done, and it was done safely thanks to the innovations of someone like Jose Diaz, who designed methodologies to keep everyone safe but allow them to practice their art together. And that's what it's all about. So a lot of pride here in what Widener College was able to achieve. And I want to talk about a few of the keys to our success. But first, we need to look at our record and just get a cumulative account. You've been probably following some of our emails and messages throughout the semester of our experience with the virus, which is a terrible thing. It's a terrible ordeal. We've all been through it. It's a bad time now nationally. Widener College demonstrates what it means if you take this very seriously and you work together to fight this virus. And Widener College has a distinctive record of success that's remarkable here. We had 16 total positive cases that were detected by the Broad Institute PCR test out of 16,000 tests that we conducted. And that's well below our projection. Those are the tests that we conducted on campus. Obviously, there are tests that occur off campus that are also important. There was no viral spread within the classroom and no faculty infection on campus throughout the semester. And that's something that we're learning from other institutions as well. We're seeing that there's good evidence that when you practice the social distance and wear the mask in the classroom, you're able to focus on your learning in a safe way. And that's a great thing to learn. The 7-day positivity rate remained below 1% and well below the surrounding communities. This chart right here shows Widener green on the bottom. It's really low. It's dancing along below 1% the entire time that we were on campus, which is really, really, really good. And we wish the whole city and state and country were at that point right now. The blue line was Staten Island rate, higher than what was on campus, and it did go up toward the end of our term. And then we did have a little uptick as well on campus, largely because of that external uptick that it's a hazard when you're out and about. So again, a great record, wonderful record. We're really proud of it. And you made it happen. You're the reason it happened. Our students came together in a wonderful way this fall. Our community demonstrated the compassion, the ingenuity, and the responsibility to ensure that we could emerge stronger. The students were wonderful ambassadors for each other. Our faculty did a great job, our staff. We care about each other. We were creative in how we approached things like marching band, theater, or sports practices, and we all took responsibility for how we supported each other. And so that's a great thing to be proud of. Of course, we relied on science, and I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize the success of that approach. We adopted early on, along with a few other schools, the best possible testing protocol, top-notch testing protocol developed by the Broad Institute. We secured that back in July. That was our choice to do that. We proactively recruited that tool, and we're going to use it again in the spring. I know there's a question about what the spring's going to look like. It's going to look a lot like the fall in that regard. We'll be testing regularly in a way that most people today would love to have that opportunity to be tested as often as we will be testing here on campus. Wonderful testing protocol. We also shared our data in the most transparent possible way, and that was actually confirmed by a band of experts, faculty who reviewed dashboards on college campuses in the United States, and they rated Widener as the second best in the entire country. I mean, it's one of the top three. It's one of the very, very, very best. There's only one school that had a slight higher grade than we did. And so I'm really proud of that, because we wanted everybody to understand the seriousness of what we were dealing with, the truth of what we were dealing with in real time, so that we could all be prudent stewards of care for each other. Now, it's great to have science, it's great to have data. You also have to be able to interpret that data. And we had a team assembled, a health analytics team, that brought together top experts. The person in the middle there is Dr. Otterbeck. He's the head of Chief of Medicine at Richmond University Medical Center. We had our senior administrators from Widener College. We had senior administrators from other colleges that we brought in so we could share best practices, so we could learn from each other. And we brought in Deputy Borough President Ed Burke, who is in New York, you have a mayor of the 5 boroughs, and you have these presidents of each borough. President Otto is the president of the borough of Staten Island, and his right-hand person is Ed Burke. We met with him weekly and kept a good dialogue going, so that we were always letting Staten Island know what we were doing and keeping them apprised, because we're committed to the well-being of our neighbors. And we did that in an exceptional way. But really, when it comes down to it, the key was everybody's participation. And without this, we would not have been successful. You made this happen. You made this commitment. You wanted to be on campus. You wanted to practice with your teammates. You wanted to be on theater and dance in front of Main Hall. You wanted to be in the labs with the faculty. You wanted to be in your classrooms. You wanted to visit your friends. You wanted to eat in those tents. And you know what? You did a great job. And you're going to do a great job in the spring, because that's what Widener does. Widener shows up for each other. And I'm very confident about the spring, looking forward to it, looking forward to having everybody back. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about it today, and we'll come back to it in January when we talk about it again with more definitive information. Today, you'll get some answers like, well, we're going to be looking at the situation and assessing the situation rationally and doing what we did in the fall, and we'll be making prudent, proper decisions. But I just want to say one thing up front. We're very confident about the capacity of our community to be successful in the spring, and we're really looking forward to it. We think it's going to be a great spring. It may start a little more tighter, a little more stringent, and we want to set that bar high, and we want to make sure everybody understands the protocol and observes the protocols. We'll be testing a lot, and then over time, you know what, it's going to get warmer, and things are going to get better, and we're going to relax more, and we're going to do more, and it's going to be a very successful arc of the spring. With that, I'll turn it over to our Vice President, Dr. Ruta Shaw Gordon, who will be our MC today. She'll be facilitating questions as well as answering a lot of really important questions from our students. Thank you.
Thank you, President Martin. And welcome everyone to our December town hall. I want to start by also expressing my gratitude to all of you. Whether you were in person at Widener, you were commuting, or you were remote, I think that everybody pulled together to really make it a successful semester. And I'm really proud of all of you and grateful for all of your assistance. So we're going to go ahead and get started, but before we get started, I wanted to remind you that we have a Q&A chat feature. If you have questions, you can put them right in there. We've gotten some questions already, but if you have any as we're talking, please add them in and we will try to get to as many as we can. We're going to answer ones that are broader, and if you have a specific question about you or a specific program, we'll get back to you on that so that you will have the answer. And know that this is just the first of, as President Martin had said, the first town hall that we're having for spring semester. We're going to have another one in January where we'll probably be able to give a lot more details because we'll know more of what's going on around us here on Staten Island and then also what's going on in the world. So just wanted to give you that heads up. And President Martin kind of alluded to this, and it was like the question that's on everyone's mind. So President Martin, what is the spring semester going to look like? Will it be similar to the fall?
It will be. It will be similar to the fall. We'll be testing a lot. We'll be successful in mounting a really meaningful experience on campus, in person as well as virtually. We'll be practicing together on the stage and on the fields. We'll be in the labs. And we'll be doing multiple modalities of teaching as we did in the fall. So I think it'll look a lot like the fall. It will, and I do really believe it will get better as we move forward through the course of the weather getting warmer and everybody observing the protocols together. So I'm confident about the spring. I don't know that I have a lot more to add about it in terms of, I think I've sort of stole my own thunder there in my.
No problem. Thank you. And then I'm going to ask this of Provost Kraus. Could you tell us when the spring semester is going to start and what do you think classes are going to look like?
Thank you, Rita. Well, we plan to start February 8th. And as the president indicated, we plan also to have classes in a variety of modalities. One thing that's for certain is that everything at this point is still uncertain. Depending upon where we are in terms of the virus and its impact on New York, depending upon what the guidelines are in place, hopefully we will be able to start as we plan on February 8th. However, if things do change, we may have to make some changes. We may have to start later. We may have to start online. At this point, however, our plan is to start February 8th with the array of modalities that we had available in the fall. Obviously, as we get closer, certainly by the middle of January, if any changes need to be made, we'll reach out not only to our students, but our faculty and our staff to apprise them of those changes. But right now, the plan is February 8th, an array of modalities, and hopefully we'll be able to follow through with that.
Great, thank you so much. And so I think if you are planning on buying plane tickets to come to Wagner, I would say make sure that those are returnable or refundable or that they are flexible in the dates so that if we do say we have to push it a little, you don't have to lose money on that. You can make sure, and most airlines are doing that anyway right now. But just as you're asking the question and as you're booking your flights, make sure you ask those things. So just keep that in mind. So President Martin, the COVID vaccine is a topic on a lot of people's minds right now. And so can you talk to us a little bit about, do you think the college is going to anticipate mandating that students have the vaccine once it becomes available?
Thank you. Yeah, this is extraordinarily great news from science, and we've been counting on science to provide the answers, and they've done a great job. I mean, it's amazing. And, they're going to be highly effective vaccines if a sufficient number of people take them. And, I'd be first in line. I'm ready to have this over with. So we're going to strongly encourage everybody to take the vaccine. We'll be guided by the state and by health authorities regarding whether it needs to be required or not. I'm confident people understand the importance of it. We did and do require the flu vaccine. And I want to go over that again. Our students have been great in responding to the clinics that we set up on campus. The reason we did that is that we don't want to add a burden or a tax to this health system in the midst of this pandemic. And you can see the wisdom of that now more than ever, as we know that certain states like Texas and even California are being, they're being hit really hard. And their health system is being hit. And so we don't want to add a single additional burden to our health system here in Staten Island or New York. And we don't want anybody to be alarmed by having a fever unnecessarily. So we are requiring the flu shot be taken by anyone who, unless there's an exception for legitimate reasons, which are well established, standard practice, we will be requiring the flu shot for anyone who wants to be on campus. And that's to help the person be safe, their colleagues not be alarmed when they have a fever, and for the health system not to be taxed unnecessarily during a pandemic. The vaccine itself for the coronavirus, I would love to get it. I calculated there are 115 million people in front of me, and I want my niece, who is a nurse in the ICU dealing with COVID, I want her to get the shot before almost anybody else. So let's support our healthcare workers, our essential workers, our elders, people in nursing homes, and let's let them get that shot. It'll be a long time before the rest of us get it, is the reality. And for that reason, we'll be observing our protocols on campus throughout the entire spring semester. That's what it looks like. So it doesn't matter if you get it or if I get it, the vaccine will be all wearing the mask and observing the distance, because that works. And it enables us to actually have a really meaningful experience together in a safe way.
Great. Yeah, I think that's important to put out there, that we all will continue to wear masks and we will continue to social distance, that is going to be the standard for Wagner for the spring. And for the flu shot, we have required it of all students. And so if you have not gotten it yet, you can get it at your local pharmacy or your doctor, and we will be asking you to send that in to health services. So you can send it to student health service at wagner.edu, and that way we will have it on record. You will not be able to move in unless you have that. So please, or an exception to that, which you've already discussed with student health services. So just make sure that you have that set up. The next question, I think, is for me. Will the college allow students coming from out of state to quarantine on campus this semester? We know this was a big burden and a hardship for folks last fall, and partly because a lot of the decisions were made at the last minute, where originally we thought maybe we could quarantine students for the 14 days, but then they just kept adding states upon that. And then we realized that we wouldn't have the room or ability to do that, especially when they defined what quarantine meant. So New York State has currently changed the rules to be, you have to have a negative COVID test, you quarantine for 3 days, and then you have to have a negative COVID test. Now, we don't know if that's going to change again. It's still early from now to February, and so I think we'll have a more definitive answer in January. But if it is a short period of time, we're going to try and make it work. But it will all depend on what that looks like. So I know I'm giving you a lot of nothing, so I apologize, but we are trying to work our best to be able to help students be able to come to campus this semester, but it is going to be dependent on some of the other pieces that are outside of our control. So I'm just going to give you guys another reminder. If you have any questions, you can type them into the Q&A and we will answer them as we go along. President Martin, will students continue, and I think you touched upon this, will students continue to take weekly tests during the spring semester?
Yes, so that's a robust cadence, to use that word, and it's one that we established proactively for the fall, and it served us well. So we're intending to continue that in the spring, and we have, just for the record, we also have procured that supply. That's an important consideration, just as we did in the fall. We partnered with the Broad Institute. We're one of their partners, and so we have secured that. Plus, we've added to our arsenal of weapons or defenses, our modalities of testing. We've added the antigen test, which we're currently using right now. We are competing in sports right now. Our basketball team is doing a great job. The men's team played yesterday, I believe, 2 days ago, and I watched the game, and they fought hard. And the women's team's going to start soon, and they're also using the PCR and the antigen test. So, we've got new tools, and we'll continue to do research to develop new tools. But yes, we're going to continue with the weekly test for sure.
Great, thank you. What is the deadline for students to let the college know if they're coming to campus in person for the spring? So we've done a couple of things. If you are planning on living on campus, we've already sent out a survey asking for your, to let us know that you want to live on campus. And part of that is because we will be assigning lottery numbers sometime in January and doing room selection. So we just need you to, we need to know if you're coming. And then for in-person classes, really, as soon as you can let us know, you have all registered for classes. If you haven't, please go on and do register, because that helps us determine how many students are planning to be on campus. And then that allows us to figure out what our housing is going to look like. So it's all interrelated. And so we need your help to let us know. Obviously, things change. We understand that. And so we know that it could be right beforehand that you're letting us know that you can't come right away, or you're not going to come and live on campus. So as soon as you know those pieces, because circumstances have changed, please do let us know. I think that communication has been good and will continue to allow us to plan for the most students to be on campus and have a good experience. And then the next question is, when will we hold the lottery? And can we talk about the housing process? We'll talk more about the housing process in January at our next town hall, but we are planning on making sometime in January those doing the housing selection process, so that way students will know where they're living. You can request a roommate or suite mates just like you did currently. So just be sure to fill out that in the forms. If you have specific questions about housing or needs, please do email resed@wagner.edu so that they can answer those questions directly. The next question is for Dr. Kraus. Will the classes of 2020 and 2021 have graduation ceremonies?
Well, we're hoping to be able to have some sort of commencement for both 2020 and 2021 later this year. Commencement for 2021, of course, is scheduled. You know, our challenge at this point is, what will the guidelines be in terms of public assemblies at that point? Right now in the state of New York, they're limited to 50. Needless to say, our commencement's usually a bit larger than that. So what we're working on are various alternatives for both 2020 and 2021. And hopefully by mid-January, we'll be able to have something in place that we can announce in terms of what the plans will be for commencement. But you may all recall that President Martin last year committed to a commencement for the class of 2020, and we're still committed to that. And we do have a commencement scheduled on the academic calendar for the class of 2021. It's only a question of how we go about executing that at this point. And we'll have a better sense of what we can do by mid-January.
Great, thank you. As a reminder, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will try and answer them. The next question is for Mr. Aramo. What do we expect athletics to look like in the spring?
Good question. Similar to what Dr. Kraus said about the academic schedule, we are planning for our intercollegiate sports to participate in the spring, working with our Northeast Conference, both our spring sports, and right now we are hoping that our fall sports will also have seasons starting in late February and running through April. Again, it's a fluid process. We're just as we'll be back to you in early mid-January. Our conference will again meet at that time to assess the situation. But that is our plan right now. As Dr. Martin said, we are already participating in women's and men's basketball, but our other sports, we fully hope to have them compete starting in mid to late February.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Dr. Kraus. For physician assistants, will we still have planned mission trips? And then I can add on too about study abroad.
Okay. At this point in time, the college has suspended travel for the spring. So unless that is changed, the answer is probably no. However, that is something I'll be discussing with Dr. Jackson, the director, in the next few weeks. But right now, given not only the college's policies, but various policies put in place concerning travel by the New York State Department of Health and also by the State Department, I think we will have to suspend those for the spring. But once again, we'll have a more definitive answer for you shortly.
And I will just add to that from a study abroad perspective. Right now, there's so many countries that aren't allowing folks to go, and we don't think it's prudent. So as a college, we are not doing study abroad for the spring. We are hoping that there's the possibility of study abroad for summer. But again, some of that will depend on the vaccines and what if countries are open to having folks from the US, since we do have the highest rate. So we'll see what that plays out at, but unfortunately for the spring, we will not be doing study abroad. Our next question is, if students were remote and took online classes in the fall, will they be able to do so in the spring? And I can leave that to Dr. Kraus or Dr. Martin.
Dr. You want to take a shot at that?
I'll let the chief academic officer answer that. Yeah.
Well, at this point, we plan, as I indicated before, to offer the same modalities. And there may be some students who, for a variety of reasons, while they wish to take courses at Wagner in the spring, won't be able to attend in person. So in the same way that we offered that accommodation for the fall, we will be offering it for the spring, and the registrar's office will be reaching out to students sometime later this month or early next month with information on that.
Great. President Martin, do we expect indoor dining to be possible in the spring?
Yes, we do. The question would be when. And so we're doing the infrastructure work now internally to be ready, procuring the right filters and looking at the air handling and everything. And we've been proactive on that front. So the other part of that is what the state will allow, over time. So when I say yes, I don't know it'll be yes on February the 1st, the 5th, the 10th. I don't know that right now. We will be governed by what the governor in New York supports. And, that's what we've been doing the whole time. But we are preparing the capacity for indoor dining. The answer is yes, we're preparing. And just as we open this campus this summer on day one, when you were allowed to do so this summer by the state, we'll be ready on day one for indoor dining in New York City.
Great, thank you. What were some of the lessons that were learned from the college's COVID response during the fall semester? And how does the college anticipate adjusting its practices for the spring? Dr. Martin, you want to start and then we'll have other folks join in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we learned a lot. I mean, and we were a learning community. I mean, that's what made us successful, is that we didn't go in, back in the spring of 2020, it was a matter of subtracting, removing, deleting. You can't go abroad. We can't be in person. We can't do this. We can't do that. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're in a different situation in 2021. We're going to be adding and adding and adding incrementally until we get back to a fuller experience. And so, but the reason we're able to do that at Wagner in that interim phase, which we're still in, was because we did not, we learned, we studied, we researched, we went out and found out what the best minds were saying about how to mitigate the virus. And we went beyond the expectations or mandates of the CDC or the state of New York. We went with the science, and we were proactive, and we were aggressive, and we went further than what the requirements were. We procured the testing regime. We set it up. You didn't have to pre-test per the guidelines. We pre-tested. You didn't have to test once a week. We tested once a week. I mean, we did the quarantine in a robust way. We made sure we reached out and tested more people. And at the same time, we kept introducing you in our ingenious way, ways of performing on the football field, the marching band, on stage, in the classroom, using technology, making it possible for those students who want to be remote. We kept innovating throughout this process, and we kept learning and learning and learning, and we continue to learn. And so there's a lot we've spent time as a leadership body. We have reflected on all the good things we learned from this, all the innovations like that dining out, using QR codes to give you the program at a theater event, touch-free doors, they're not going away. So we've learned a lot, and we're going to keep learning. As far as changes in practices in the spring, I can't think of any big fundamental changes except for the way I like to talk about it is that we've done the heavy lift, we've done the original work, we've really built up a body of success, and practice, and now we're doing incremental things on top of it. So we'll perfect what we've done, we'll keep learning, and we'll grab new tools, and but basically we did a really, really good job because we're a learning community that really cares.
Great. And I know that in the summer, we had reached out to athletic teams and student groups to get kind of feedback and to tell you kind of what we were planning. We're going to be doing that again in January. And we're also going to ask for your feedback. What worked well? What do we need to think about changing? What else do you want to see? We're trying to balance the piece of safety with a true collegiate experience. And so we want to hear from you guys on what that looks like and what we can be doing different to make your experience better. So we're always striving for that. So we'll continue to do that, and we'll get that feedback and incorporate it in. Dr. Krause, can you tell us what will happen next semester with GA positions?
Yes, I can. As long as our campus is open and operating, graduate assistants will be expected to report to their positions.
Okay, great, thank you. And also, when will we know what classes are hybrid, which ones are in person, which ones are fully remote? Because right now the course schedule planner doesn't say a location.
That will probably be by the middle of January, by early to mid-January.
Okay. Perfect. And I think we are at the end of our questions. So, there is a question about seniors getting graduation pictures taken. And that is something that we are currently working on with Dean Conception has been in contact with the company, and we're trying to figure out how we can do it safely so seniors who want to get their graduation pictures taken can. And there's one other question here. Do we think that gyms will be open in the spring? I'll throw that to you, Mr. Ramo.
Well, that is, as a lot of things we said today, that is really up to New York State and New York City guidelines. We will, much like Dr. Martin said about the dining hall, the first day that we are able to open our gym to the student body, we will do so. But right now, we're operating under state and city guidelines. So we hopefully know by the time the semester begins.
Great, thank you. So I think that's it for all the questions that we've gotten at this point. Obviously, if you have questions that weren't answered, please do email us. If we didn't answer your specific question, we will get back to you. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Martin, for some closing remarks.
Well, thank you all, and especially thank this team, the great work that they did to make it possible for our students to be having a wonderful experience, whether they're in person or online. And that's our commitment to you. And so right now, we just want to ask you to stay safe over the next winter break and the hiatus. If you're taking the course online, great. If you're not, just stay safe, exercise your precautions. You've learned a lot here at Wagner, and you can share that with others and keep observing that. We want you to have a happy holiday, a happy, safe holiday, and then come back to Wagner. We look forward to seeing you, and it's going to be a really great semester. And out of this, we're going to be so strong next year. It's going to be incredible because we have done this work this year, against a great challenge, and we've done it so well together. You have a lot to be proud of, a lot to look forward to. And so the only thing I can ask is that you stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. And I think it's going to be a great, happy new year for everyone. Take care. Go Seahawks.